Hey guys! So things look a little bit different today. As you can see, you will actually be able to see my books. And that's because I have finally moved to my new bedroom, so things are gonna look a lot nicer around these videos. Thank God. For my video today, I thought I would partake in the opposites book tag, since I now have access to my books. So let's get started. The first challenge is to find the first book in my collection and the last book. The first one in my collection is going to be a little bit difficult because there is a book in here that I got well into my collection, but it is definitely probably the oldest one in my collection. And that would be Joan of Arc by M.D. Holmes. This copy is actually one that my mom used to read when she was younger, so it's definitely older than most of the books on my shelf. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that the actual first book in my official collection is Christie by Catherine Marshall, which doesn't really have much of a cover. I have no idea what this book is about. I have never read it, but my grandma got it for me when I was, I think, in elementary school, and I still have yet to read it, so maybe that'll be a challenge for me. The latest book to my collection is actually an easy answer. It's Poison by Sarah Pinsborough. I found this in a local bookstore, and it looked interesting. It's about Snow White, but it's supposed to be adventurous and sexy and all those fun things, so we'll see how it goes. Second challenge on this list is to find the cheapest book in my collection and the most expensive. The cheapest book in my collection is also kind of a difficult one. There are quite a few of my books that I got for free from my college or from my high school or from wherever over the years. I'm gonna go ahead and say that The Gathering Dawn by Sally Lady and Diana Crawford is probably the cheapest one because it was donated to my mom from our high school's library, and I stole it from her. It's stolen cheap, and although I did not pay for it, I'm gonna go ahead and say that the most expensive book I own is this one. Next challenge, a book with a male protagonist and a book with a female protagonist. For the male protagonist book, I'm gonna go with Gone by Michael Grant. As you can see, my copy of this is kind of destroyed because I think I was reading it while it was raining. I really enjoyed this book. I haven't actually read the rest of the Gone series, but I was really intrigued by this, and I don't know, maybe I'll pick up the rest of them, but I might need to reread this one to remember all about it because from what I can recall, it got kind of complicated. And for the female protagonist, I'm gonna go with Where the Heart Is by Billy Letts. My sister really recommended it to me. She really enjoyed it. And again, another one where I read it, I remember enjoying it, I don't remember anything about it. That's kind of unfortunately how it is with a lot of my books, so I feel like I should reread a lot of them. For a book I read fast, I'm gonna go with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. I don't know if you can call 11 hours fast, but I read this in 11 hours. Now, a book that I took a really long time to finish is actually The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, which is hilarious considering it's one of my favorite books. For some reason, this book just kept going and it took me forever to read, but it wasn't one of those things where, you know, you're taking forever and it's just, you're dragging it on. No, I was so stoked there was more to read of this, but it just took me forever. I don't know why. For prettiest cover versus ugliest cover, prettiest, I'm gonna go with Eligible, and I can't even describe why I think this is just such a pretty cover. I mean, it is a pretty cover, but I just, look at it. I don't know, it's so clean, and I love this color, and I still can't tell you if I like this book or not because I haven't read it, but it's very pretty looking. For ugliest cover, it's not necessarily that it's ugly, it's Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, and I don't know, I don't like yellow, so that's eh. I love the book though. The next challenge says a national book and an international book, and I'm assuming by national it means one that was, you know, written and published in my country, which is the United States. I'm gonna go with The Book of Ruth by Jane Hamilton. I have not read this book, but I picked this out at the Last Bookstore in Los Angeles. It's a really cool bookstore. If you haven't gone, you should. And I don't know, it just looked interesting. So again, another book on my to-read list. This is ridiculous, guys. For an international book, I don't actually know that this was for sure published internationally, but I got it internationally for sure. When God Was a Rabbit by Sarah Winman. I actually got this for free at Jane Austen's house in Chawton when I was there for a writing class, and it was a part of the World Book Night 2015. It says, "This book is a gift. You can keep it or pass it on." Maybe after I read this, I might do a giveaway of some kind. Who knows? Thinnest book versus the thickest book. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is the thinnest book I own. Michelangelos David by Franca Folletti. I got this in Italy when I was there, and it's just about the David, and I thought David was really cool, so that's why I got it. For thickest book, it definitely has to be Winter's Tale by Mark Halperin, which I read in an English class a couple years ago. It was really good, but believe it or not, I read this like the night before. It was a very long night. Fiction versus nonfiction is not very well defined, and so that was very hard to pick. But I'm gonna go ahead and say for a fiction book, Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. Oh my god, so good. Please read this if you've only seen the movie. I mean, the movie is fine or whatever, but read the book. And for a nonfiction book, I'm gonna go with Rainn Wilson's autobiography, The Bassoon King. He came to talk at Texas Christian this past year, and he was really interesting. It goes into, obviously, his personal life, a little bit of his time in the office, and a lot about his Baha'i faith. I might be pronouncing that wrong, and if so, I apologize. Baha'i, I'm pretty sure. And there's a foreword by Dwight Schrute, so clearly you should read it. Gotta move fast because I have to finish filming soon. For the next one, it has to be a very, very romantic book versus an action book. For the romantic book, I'm choosing Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. It's a Christian romance, and I remember my friends and I being obsessed with this book in high school. It's based off of the book of Hosea in the Bible, and if you're into that sort of book, go ahead and read it. I think it'd be really interesting for me to read it again now that it's been a few years since high school and see if I like it the same way. For an action-y book, we have yet another book that I have not read, so I'm going off of assumptions, but we have Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith. I wonder who he is, guys. Probably just some rando writing books. And last on the list is a book that made me happy and a book that made me sad. I'm gonna start with the sad one first, because who wants to end a video on what makes you sad? What made me sad was Cast On, Kill Off by Maggie Sefton. And if you have been following me and been friends with me for a while, you know that this book made me sad. It's a knitting murder mystery book, and I love murder mysteries and I love to knit, so I was very, very excited about this. I did not like it, so it made me sad. The book that made me happy, I, again, do not remember much about it, but I do remember how much I loved this book. It's Behind the Attic Wall by Sylvia Cassidy. I read this book, I think, in 5th or 6th grade, and I remember finishing it on a van ride to some trip that I was taking with my church, and immediately finishing it and having to tell the whole van of girls about it. But I didn't quite know how to summarize books at the time, so I just told them the whole plot of the book for the next like 15-30 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that's why I didn't make many friends on that trip. So there you go, Casey and friends. That is the Opposites book tag. Casey, I'm tagging you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.